Hello and good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Rotimi. It is such a pleasure to have you today. And it's going to be a great and a fantastic time that we'll be having on the morning show today. Please be reminded that the Good Morning Education Show always streams Mondays to Fridays, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. West African time. And then, of course, we come on the weekends for the weekend special on Saturday and Sunday. And the Saturday is 8 at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And then Sunday is 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Same time, West African time. And we're going to be having a great time today. As usual, we spend time to talk about issues within and around the world of education. And we encourage you just to tell us your name, tell us your location, where you're streaming from, and also do not hesitate to make comments and contributions. Ask us questions. We have from time to time analysts who join us on the show, will share their voices, will lend their thoughts and expertise and their views so that we all eventually learn together, share together, and that's how we grow together. This is the Good Morning Education Show. Welcome and welcome. And like I told you on the show, we'll spend some time to look at some headline news. And within those headline news, we're able to make some references, analysis, as the case may be. Um, so that's that on the show. We have one of the headlines that we're going to be having today around leading Scottish university named most affordable city in UK um, for university students. A new study revealed that the University of Dundee, has emerged as the most affordable. And that's a good one for those who are looking at cost. How do you put it now? Cost metrics for some of these things. This is a good one to explore. So we have that as well. And of course, we have more news. And this next one is Abuad ranked best university in Nigeria. Afe Babalola University is highly reliable and trusted to emerge on its impact ranking as the 12th year old university, which is the best university in Nigeria. If you want to read up on that, I think you can pick up the Vanguard or visit the vanguardngr.com for stories on that nature. Um, Toying with the future of Nigerian students will spell doom. This is coming from Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, right? Um, ASU has been in strike and so many things and all that. So we're hearing so many things with regards to that. So that's what we're saying. So let's hope um, let's hope that this is sorted out in the shortest possible time. And we hope that things come back to normal. And then of course we have NANS presidency. We won't allow conduct of primaries with ASU on strike. NANS wants presidential aspirants. Um, you know, we all know how it is. When you have elections around the corner, everybody begins to make their bargain of some sort. And NANS, that's National Association of Nigerian Students, is also making good its claim and its threat. If you need the students' votes in their numbers, then you must have sorted out the issue of strike. Another headline here says Lagos resident condemns underage access to hotel and alcohol. Lagos State residents have called for stiffer measures to check, on this. I'm sure this is also coming on the heels of of how do you put it now? It's coming on the heels of the the recent news that we've been having in schools. You know, we're having a lot of news in schools, and it's also showing the level of moral decadence in our youth and society. I think that it's a crisis, as it were, you know, and it's easy to point accusing fingers, but this is something that we need to nip in the bud, and treat as a matter of urgency, because so many things can be attributed to the decay, the downward spiral of what we're experiencing in today's world. Um, the nation is telling us about choir teachers to get 4,329 tablets, smartphones to teach. That is from Quara being in the news. You know, we know about the recent project that is going on in Kwara State, and that's quite commendable that we're now having resources, classroom resources, tools, tech tools, and leverage for the educators to make their work more, impactful, impact driven, give them access to a world of resource. I think these are things that we need to encourage from time to time. So we have another Jam sends vital message and candidate lists, and they send vital message to candidates for the exams, and they've also released list of forbidden items in exam halls. This is that time where exam also would almost get everyone prepared for their exams coming up, and this is very, very important. Um, we know that about practice comes as a result of breaking the law. And so if people are advised accordingly, they can easily get to know what to do and what not to do, so that no one is actually asking or feigning ignorance. So today we're going to be talking about, like I said, something quite interesting. And I don't intend to spend too much time, talking about it. But it's I feel it's an important conversation that we all must have, or we all must talk about or discover, you know if we are to really be honest with ourselves. We're talking today about self leverage. There are many angles to the conversation, but I've had so many conversations and so many things around, and you get to see where this becomes almost paramount and very important, right? um, a lot of people out there are seeking better outcomes, trying to do good things for themselves and others, trying to make great things happen in business, in life, using their skills, using their talents. And as they do this, we also see the need, you know, to buttress further the impact and the way that leverage can come. Leverage is not a new word to most people out there, and neither should it be a strange word either. However, but looking at self-leverage, most of the time, you either see leverage as regards to other things and other people. It's most times directed on an external compass where everyone begins to try as much as possible to find the advantage, for the sake of people listening. When you talk about leverage, another word that you can use for leverage is to take advantage. You know, Leverage can be seen as taking advantage, as as it were. So if somebody is taking advantage, that is seen as leverage. If someone is, you know, if someone is how do I put it? Taking advantage, taking opportunity. That's also leverage. When someone is also out there, you know, trying to, how do you put it? Trying to make sure things go as planned. That's leverage. Leverage is everywhere and all around us, But then when you begin to leverage yourself, when you begin to talk about self leverage, it means that you are number one, getting to a place of acknowledgement, not just a place of consciousness. You have to be aware, you have to acknowledge, and then you have to use. And so it technically means that if I'm going to talk about self leverage, then I pretty much might also look at not just taking advantage, but I must also look at the word use. When you take advantage of what you know about yourself that is good in yourself and use it to your advantage, that's what self leverage is all about. And everyone out there must be able to get this concept right, because we sometimes do so many things. And when you look at some of the things we do, it's almost like we're on autopilot, always seeking for help, always looking for support, always looking for things without considering ourselves, without looking at what we ourselves can do. And that shows sometimes that we've gotten to a place where we don't even feel authentic. We've got to a place where we don't feel value. We don't feel that we mean something to other people, you know. And that's very, 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 very dangerous. It's a very dangerous trend when you look at it in particular. Very, very dangerous for someone not to be able to know what is required, you know, of him or her. You know, leverage is very, very important. You must be able to leverage your strengths. You must be able to use your strength. You must be able to find positivity around what you represent. And this is very important for those who are listening today. Um, let me not sound like it's not a training, but let me not sound as if I'm teaching, but I just want to admonish everyone out there. A life of leverage is a life of value. A life of leverage is a life of use. A life of leverage is a life of opportunity. A life of leverage is a life of extensive, intentionality. I've noticed that those who begin to practice self leverage are people who are intentional about almost everything, even the most ignored thing becomes something meaningful. Meaningful to the point where even pain is a tool. Pain becomes something they learn from. That's what I believe. Leverage is critical, guys. It is very important, and we must begin to practice it. Self leverage, practice it at home, practice it at work, practice it, in our everyday life, because it's actually important. And if you're going to think about it, really, there's nothing that exists that is not useful. There's nothing that is at disposal to you that is not useful. But the thing that we sometimes might find challenging is our comprehension and interpretation of how to look at a particular concept, how to look at a particular thing, how to look at a particular gifting, how to look at a particular situation, and convert it to our possibilities, convert it to our advantages. You understand? That's why sometimes you hear people say, "Oh, so happened. So what did you learn from that?" And you're like, "Wait, this has already happened. Moving on. Let's look at something." No, 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 no. Intentional people will draw you back to it. What could you have learned from that? It could be a mistake. It could be something that wasn't even palatable. But they tell you, if you really want to experience self leverage, you must learn from good, you must learn from bad. You must look at the obstacles, you must look at the pain, you must look at the opportunities, you must look at the privileges, you must look at your mistakes and the mistakes of others. Study them in such a way where you are able to, how do you put it now? You're able to say, "Oh, what are the pitfalls I can avoid going forward? This is what happened to so and so. This is what happened in so industry. This is what happened in so business. This is what happened. This is what happened. This is what happened." I'm when we're able to do that, what it does is it gives us an advantage to use our knowledge to the benefit of ourselves and others around us. Really, that's what it means, And a lot of people must understand that if there's anything that we'll be talking about in the place of strategy, self leverage is a mighty powerful strategy. It's a potent driven strategy where you as a person, you are able to make things happen. You understand? You are so invested in yourself, you are able to turn things around in your favor. And that's the thing. When you see sometimes they say someone is resourceful, someone is not resourceful. I dare tell you that when you monitor the people who are resourceful and you look at their approach to the way they do things, you look at the kind of method they execute things, you think about their consciousness, how they implement and they follow through, you begin to see that they are very strategic to the outcome, strategic to themselves, strategic to gaining value. There are many times we find ourselves doing lovely things. At the end of the day, it wasn't an advantage to us. There are times we see ourselves doing specific things. At the end of the day, it's not advantageous to us. We don't get any value. And eventually, we have mighty people with mighty perception, with mighty brand outlook. But there's a little bit of results that they have to show. A lot of times, because the self leverage is missing. And this is what I want you to do as you listen to me today, to think about it and say, it's time for me to begin to be conscious and intentional about leveraging myself. And that's where you remember this beautiful thing sometimes we hear inspiring people speak to us about how unique we are, how unique our voices are, how unique our fingerprint and our biometrics for the eyes are, how our voice print is distinct from another, our footprint unique and designed to us. It's almost speaking that there's a signature about you in everything that you do. You sound in a way. Don't try to clone yourself into another. Model after the beautiful things that they show you, but be authentic in yourself. That's what it means when you are able to talk about leverage. And I'm sure sometimes people will look at it and say, okay, how can we explain these things? You see, you understand that for you to give leverage to the place of self, you must begin to understand that you are pursuing value or you are also recreating value. That's another way of saying leverage. You know, um, I use this illustration sometimes to people and I tell them, so for example, when you think about it, an orange fruit, or sometimes it could be a pineapple, it could be watermelon. You find out that there are times that people will cut this fruit open, extract the juice, and throw the rest away. But for some other people, for orange, they take the juice, they use the seeds, the stuff on the inside, the pulpy stuff on the inside is still useful. For some other people, the watermelon, both the back of the watermelon and the watermelon, the inner part of it, it's useful. They blend it sometimes and make smoothie. Um, the same thing for pineapple. Sometimes people get to extract things from the back. That's the one you peel out, and you begin to find that that same fruit, that same item, that same thing is producing multiple layers of value to different people. That's leverage. Leverage is putting to advantage, putting to use, putting to opportunity what is available in one thing is almost making a resource in itself. And a resource meaning that there's a repetitive source, you know, as it were. That's what leverage is. You get what I'm trying to say. And we can see that, leverage is something we can do in any area of our lives and in every area of our lives. Some people think that, um, well, if you're taking advantage, it means you probably have an edge over other people. Well, it depends on how you see it. Yes, leverage will give you an edge, but the goal is not necessarily to beat people. But the truth about it is your goal is for you to be better. And in being better, definitely it will set you apart from other people. So leverage is not something like you say is leverage good or bad. No, it amplifies the good. Guess what? A lot of people even have leverage on bad things. You understand? You can have a leverage on your income. You work 30 days and and then you earn something, and that income you put it to use, you get the leverage out of it. You can leverage friendships, you can leverage your knowledge, you can leverage your passion, you can leverage your pain, But the good thing about it is your level of perception and positivity, that you're able to see the good in everything, even when that everything at that point in time seems not to be so pleasant. It's important for us to understand what leverage is. And when you look at yourself and you're leveraging on yourself, one of the ways to easily leverage on yourself is to pick a major dimension of your life. All of us have different dimensions to our lives. And in those dimensions, of course, there's some that's common to all. There's some that you actually have to make so specific to them. But you find out that self-leverage is almost like saying, I take advantage, I put to use every key area of my life. It can be your finances. There's financial leverage to it. You understand? It can be a lot of things. You must be one who is open to that and who is able to recreate such reality. Do you get? And once you are able to do that, you are able to translate and transfer leverage from one place to the other, taking it from one thing to the other. This is actually what it means. And those who will be watching this much later, I really want to encourage you, to put that demand on yourself, you know, and say to yourself that, before we reach out to others, have we made the most of ourselves? Have we done the best of ourselves? Leverage is not just getting, it's also giving. You need to leverage the now, you need to leverage situations. And there's a way you do that because you have to practice it now. Practice makes perfect. Practice leveraging on things within and around you. A very important thing to do, you know. And when you are able to do that, you get value. You get value. I remember, when you look at different types of accommodation, there are flats, there are terraces, there are different types of accommodation. And when you think about this accommodation, it just gives you understanding that, well, to a large extent, this accommodation, to a large extent, there are people who pick the accommodation based on their type. But there's one that strikes me, strongly, and I like to use it in my illustration, is when we talk about self-contained. That's almost like an apartment that you're already having everything you need to have, all in suite into one, you know. And it's the same thing, when you think about leverage, it's almost like, talking about a self-contained experience where you are contained, you are leveraging all that is containing in you, within you, around you. That's what it is. That's what it is. You have that leverage, you know, and when you are able to do that, you begin to get value. You begin to get what you call drawdown. You see, those who find true leverage always escape what you call self delusion. And self delusion sometimes is where people misperceive who they are. They misperceive the possibilities around them. They misperceive the audacity around them. And this sometimes, shortchange a lot of people in life. I don't want that to be your experience, honestly. And that's why you need to understand why we're talking about this on the Good Morning Education Show. If you're a teacher, self leverage is very important. That as amidst the resourcefulness and the resources around you, you need to ask yourself, am I leveraging yourself? The beauty and the best of integrity of input is when you find that individual has been able to make leverage of himself, leverage of herself. In fact, you make a better teacher, you make a better leader, you make a better facilitator when you are able to be one who's mastered the art of self leverage, taking advantage of yourself. I don't know whether you've seen people who do stand up comedy or you see people who do one stage, one man drama. And in a theater, you find that they display different personalities and act different scripts all in one person. You begin to see that that person is able to leverage on his emotion, voice tonality, pitch, their eyes, eye connect, with their body movement. They pass the message on. And this is where you and I need to begin to ask ourselves, of what leverage are we having? Are we having people leverage and we don't have self leverage? Are we having other leverage and we don't have internal leverage? Are we having communications about the possibilities that we're fully into networking with others, but yet we not network with ourselves? When you don't network with yourself, you make a poor rudiment, you make a poor rehearsal of what you do outside. And this is where a lot of people miss it. And I just hope that the conversation we're having today can draw you closer to begin to see that place of value. And one of the ways, that you can easily perform, experience, and engage in self leverage, right, is when you begin to think about it and you begin to explore number one, feedback. you know and we've said it on the show before, what feedback really means, what feedback produces, what feedback enables. You as a person, you must be ready for that. Feedback can make a lot of things happen for you, happen in you, happen through you. you know that's what feedback can do for you. So feedback is something that is phenomenal, guys. You can get the best of things with feedback. And feedback is not just asking, what do you think? Feedback is also perceiving, what did it cause? What was the effect? What was the impact? You see, feedback, as you look at yourself, you are also able to do what you call self study. It's a part of feedback where you're able to analyze and interpret between the patterns that constantly show up in the way you do things, in the way you respond to things, in the way things are happening for you. That's very, very important. You must understand that feedback is everything when you are trying to build a case for leverage. And it's an encouragement to you and I, where as we move forward and as we move on and we do great things, we must be mindful, of these realities in ourselves. We must be mindful of these possibilities in ourselves. Feedback is very critical. You must not miss it. You must not miss it. You must not miss it. And when we're talking about self leverage, you know, there are questions that might come into your heart. There are questions that might come into your mind. Questions that might come into your consciousness. And it's not wrong to entertain question. No, 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 no. It's very right to entertain question. But the thing is that these questions are taking us to a place where we're able to really, really speak to ourselves and say, what does this really mean? We're able to get that and we say, yes, what does this really mean? Right? And as we look at it, we are also able to do what we call assess, because feedback is not going to be leveraged if we now don't carry out an assessment. An assessment is a follow through or a follow up on feedback. That what we are aware of, what we are aware about, we're not able to do an assessment on, you know, an assessment that equally takes us to know how to be able to make these things work in our favor, work for our good. You know, pretty much that's what it's all about. And people out there, I hope that they also realize that, you know, we're able to take things into that consciousness and into that level, you know. And there's another thing that I might need to stress, and it's the fact that when you're trying to leverage yourself, you know, um, you must watch out for what you call self despair. Self despair, it's almost an unhealthy state in some cases, where you have um, to have a sense of, I don't want to call it a wrong sense of judgment, but you're almost, you know, writing yourself off, as it were. You sense of despair, you deal with it, because it can always rob you of a lot of things. At a place of despair, things become gloomy. You lose appetite to do things. The zest and the zeal and enthusiasm, that's the soul of action. You don't find it easily available to you. And that's what really happens at that point, you know. And I hope that as people begin to work towards leveraging on themselves, they fight self despair, because when you start thinking about the fruits that come out of self despair, start thinking about the need for validation. You don't believe in your dreams yourself. You don't think you are enough. You're not able to dare your growth. You're not able to do things. You're not able to look at how to make things work for you. You're not able to leverage on the possibilities within and around you. All these things are things that, tend to happen when we get into a place of self despair. Your spirit begins to wane, and you begin to lose, you know, so many things. But then, of course, that delusion that comes causes you to feel stuck. And what causes you to feel stuck? And that's really not healthy. It's not something that you want to um, put into your situation, as it were. So yes, this is what we're talking about today. Um, this is what we're talking about today, and I just want to maybe share one more point with you, and it is trying what you call self-generation, where you're almost like a living organism creating new cells. You generate yourself, you regenerate yourself, you put yourself in a place where you're able to have a mental picture of a reality and generate your mood, generate yourself. That way you're able to get into looking at scenarios of things that you can happen to find or do, and those things become a reality to you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where I would want us to draw the curtains on the show today. But if you've learned something, please do let us know. Send it in a comment. Tell us where you're streaming from. Tell us your name. Tell us your location. And how this session has been of value to you. We'll be here, God willing, tomorrow. And that will be another time on the show. Thursday, the 5th of April, 2022. It's going to be an amazing time. It's going to be a time of good things. It's going to be a time of great things. It's going to be a time of possibilities, unlimited possibilities, limitless possibilities. So please tell someone about the Good Money Education Show. Tell someone to tell someone about the Good Money Education Show. So we will be here tomorrow, God willing, and we'll have a great time. And we have a usual way of saying goodbyes. Um, it's called "It's Always a Great Morning," or we say it as "It's Always a Great Morning" on the Good Morning Education Show. So we're gonna say it now together, and I hope you're saying it with me in your living room or wherever you find yourself. So say it after me. It's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. Let's do it together. One to go. It's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. Bye for now.